What's up, my loves? We are here for another episode of 10-Minute Teas. This time we are working in Affinity instead of Photoshop. So my Affinity users, you'll be excited to see this one. We're going to change out the graphics, the colors, and I'll even show you how to modify the locations of the paint splashes if you'd like to do that. So without further ado, let's get it going. First thing that we're going to do is pull in our image, and you'll see right here it says replace image. In Photoshop it's a smart object, you would double click and change it out, but here in Affinity you don't really have the smart object option, but replace image is the closest we can get to it. So I'm going to select my image here, make sure I'm on my move tool, and you'll see at the top I'll have the option to replace the image. So let's go there. And let's find us an image that we can pull in. I think I have. Let's say we use this one here. Handsome young gentleman, one of the beautiful children of one of our beautiful members of our Innate Creatives private Facebook group. So you'll know that every now and then I'll ask you all for pictures, and then I'll surprise you by putting them into templates. And if I do use your photo for a template or even for a tutorial, you just usually y'all will remind me and message me your email, and I will send you that template for the free ski. Alright, so this subject here, we're going to go ahead and pull him in, and I don't know what the colors would be, so I'm just going to show you all a generic color change. And Tiffany, whenever you're ready to do this template, let me know if you need Affinity version or Photoshop version, and I will edit it for you. So let's just assume that the colors are, let's go with maybe a maroon and the yellow. So we want to change these colors out. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take off this logo, because that's not going to be the logo of our school and it's not the right color. So I'm going to do a file place. Let's bring in, I decided to show you all something extra, but I'm just going to bring it in first. It is, of course it is asking me for a text file. If you see this and it limits you, just put all documents. I don't know why it's defaulting to a text file when I go to place. But I'm going to drag in this image here with the graduation cap, and right now, of course, it's not the right color. It's actually the perfect colors for the last image we did, but we're going to leave it alone for now, because I'm going to show you if you brought something in and you need to modify the colors, there's a way to do it in Affinity. But right now, I'm going to pretend like this is the right logo. These are the right colors, and we'll leave it as is. We'll go ahead and start modifying some of the other elements of the image. So for our class of, what we would do is I'm going to expand them just so you see what's in that group. So there's a shadow on the entire group, and then there is an outer glow, inner glow, an outline, bevel, emboss, and color overlay on the inside group. And the reason why I had to do it like that is because in Photoshop I can add all of those elements to a single object, but I'm limited in Affinity. So the way that I get by with that, and this is a tip for you all too, is if you have an instance where you've maxed out your outer glows and all of that stuff, then you create a group, and then you can apply more effects to that group. So I have applied the drop shadow to that group because I had to use an outer glow in order to get that second stroke there. So as a matter of fact, I can even, let's do this and take off the outer glow. And see, outer glow here was white. I'm going to take off the outer glow there, and then on the group I'm going to, instead of just the drop shadow, I'm going to add a stroke. So this is the way, or we call it the outline here. This is the way I used to have to do it back in the day with Photoshop, because it didn't ever give you an option to have multiple strokes, and now that's a very popular look. And in order to achieve that look, we kind of have to do it a little bit different in the Affinity program. So I'm increasing the radius there so that I see more of the white. Make sure my opacity is on 100%, and then I have a shadow there too. And I may end up having to offset that shadow a little bit more. just because now I have a stroke on that layer. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see what the effects are doing as we're changing them. And for some reason I need to make sure that if I have an outer glow on here, outline is here, I want to make sure that everything is clean. I'm going to take off the outer shadow. Of course I have an outline here, that's fine. Because I really only want the shadow to be on the outside layer. Everything else looks good. I have an inner glow on here right now too. Doesn't seem to be doing much. So I'll close that out. And then let's go back to the outside layer, and for the Affinity users, I'll already have this updated, so you won't have to change this, but this does let you know if you were creating this from scratch in Affinity. See how you have to basically, in order to get a double stroke, I had to apply a stroke to the text, put it in a group, and then apply another stroke to that group, and then apply the drop shadow to that whole group. And that's not the way I do it in Photoshop. Obviously you can add as many strokes, well I don't know as many, the most I've ever added is maybe 4 strokes, and then a drop shadow, and it's all one unit. But since we can't do it like that, it's cool. We'll work with what we can here. And I think we had some yellow, so let me see. That's what I did. I think I had a glow of yellow, the white, and then the yellow. So let's see, we had black, and that's why that was looking so rough, because the yellow, I tricked the program to give me a second stroke by using an outer glow with a color. And then when you do that, I'm going to use my color picker here, drag it over to the yellow, drop it, and tap my circle. When you do that, as long as you stay within, I think even if I bring it outside, let's see. So what happens is it tries to stroke that on the next layer, and sometimes it gets a little trashy outside of that area. So as long as we can keep it looking clean, we can do it this way, and it dupes the exact Photoshop effect that we had. So I'm happy with that. I can close that out, and then what I'll do is I'll bring down the white outline just a little bit. Okay, so that still gives me that pop-off effect. I still have my drop shadow there. I'm happy with all of that. And then I still have the name at the bottom. So because I like how this is a little bit better, and I want you to see what I'm talking about. You see those jagged edges there? This program doesn't do well when you're telling it to do an outer glow. And I don't know if it prints like this, but it definitely shows up on the screen like this, so I wouldn't take any chances. When you tell it to do an outer glow, it just tends to make it really, really jagged when you get closer to 100%. And let me show you that. Now that's the group. Let's do the actual text, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So for this outer glow, you see how I have the intensity turned all the way up to 100%? It doesn't like that. So if you turn it down to somewhere around maybe 90 or so, it looks a little bit better. But I think this is just one of those limitations of the program, so we're going to work around it. Like I said, in this process, you're not just a designer, you're a problem solver. So anytime you see something and you're trying to create an effect or an experience, we got to figure out best practices to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the class of, and I'm going to duplicate this entire group. So right click, duplicate. So I have another version of my class of, and I'm going to drag it to where I had the bottom text. And let's go to the bottom text. And I'm just going to grab that text there. So we'll triple click there. I got all that selected. I'm going to copy. And I'm going to leave it here for right now because I'm going to use it to compare to make sure that when I change this other one that it looks very similar. Okay, so now I'll go into my text here, which is just a copy of my class of. Like I said, once I do something once, I do not like to do it over and over again. So try to work smart and not hard. So we'll go inside of our text here, triple click, Control V. We'll paste all of that first and last name, but of course it's not the same size and it doesn't fit, so we're going to make that fit. We'll take, while we're in the text editing mode, we're going to go ahead and expand this text box. Make sure we can fit it all on one line. Now let's grab our move tool, pull that down. Like I said, for the Affinity users, you won't have to do all this, because that's the reason why I'm doing this right now. I'm making it nice so you don't have to go through all these steps. But for the non-template purchasers, no shame on you. You're watching this so you can understand how to do this for yourself, and I'm proud of you. So this is teaching you some elements that you may be able to apply to achieve the same results as the Photoshop style templates. Okay, so I would be happy with this one as is, and then I would have the logo that we could interchange. You could even do the logo and the graduation cap, so let's show what that might look like. And then maybe the graduation cap I would want to bring above the paint layer. So let's bring that above, drop it like it's hot. Looks good. So we have our logo, we have a little bit of an accent image here, we have paint splashes, and our text is all editable. And then for the 2020, we have the same kind of issue going on here with the effects, and I'm going to show you that. So with the outer glow, again, now it's not as bad on the bigger text, and I'm going to zoom in and show you what I'm talking about here. But you can see when it does that outer glow, it's just not a very clean look, and I can't imagine why. So I'm going to take and reduce this outer glow. Let's say maybe 97 works. 97 works. But if I try to make it 100%, it just does some weird pixelation around the edges, and I don't like it. But that 97 I can deal with. And we still have our crisp, clean edges around our text here. And the smaller the text is, the worse that pixelation looks. And I'm going to call that a done design. However, we said we're going to change colors too. So let me show you how to change these colors. As a matter of fact, let me save. And what we'll go from here is to, I'm going to change back my image. That way I can save this template to how it will look when you will get it. So Tiffany will bring yours right back, and then we'll do color change. So I'm going to go to replace image, and you know what? I'm not going to be able to replace the image because I got to pull it back in as a PNG. So we're going to be cool with this as is. And then we'll go ahead, go forward. I have it saved with this color scheme, and we'll show you how to change it to the next color scheme. So the first thing I like to do is go ahead and reduce all of my layers so that it looks nice and clean, and I can work on one thing at a time. So let's work on the 2022. And let's just say the colors will be, let's say purple and gold, but maybe it's not this yellow gold, maybe it's more of a Vegas gold. So in that case, we'll double click, we'll see wherever we have this yellow, and if you know the hex code for your colors, you can go to the RGB hex sliders, and I don't know if I have the hex code saved. No, so of course I type first and last name. So if you have a hex code, you can paste it right there. Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing is kind of creating your color. This is something that's not so hard to do by eye. And then if you get to where, let's say I know it's this golden yellow color, but I want it to be more Vegas, so I could go to my saturation, and I know that a Vegas gold is more towards the gray, so I'll bring it down towards the gray area. And I think that's it for me. And then if I want that hex code for later, I can go to my RGB hex sliders, double click there, and copy that hex code. And I just changed the shadow and not the actual outer glow. So let me go and show you how you would do that. So now I'm in my hex sliders. I could paste the color here for the outer glow, hit enter, and that'll update the image there. So for my outer shadow, I definitely want to change that back to black. So click once. I've been double clicking on that thing all day and wondering why it wouldn't pop up, and it's because the double click doesn't work for the swatches in Affinity. That's how you open up the swatches in Photoshop. So you see I slip up between the two programs, and I'm learning as you are learning. So let's go ahead and change all of our yellows out now to the Vegas gold, and wherever we come across blue, we will change it to purple. Excuse me guys. Let's go to the top text, and we'll go double click on our effects. Again, we see that yellow. Let's go to the hex color and paste it there for the outer glow. Hit enter. You have to hit enter, I believe. And let's just close it out. And I'm going to go ahead and change all the gold first. That way I can save my little hex code. If you want to do it the opposite way, like change the purple and the gold as you're in each layer, then just have you a little word sheet or some kind of clipboard over to the side that you have your hex number saved on, and you can just copy and paste that way as well. Here we go. Let's close that one out, and of course we have some paint layers, paint splash layers that have the yellow gold, so we'll go to our paint effects layer for that. And like I said, each of these paint splashes you can move around. I'll show you how to do that too. For now, let me go to the main paint drip layer, and you can turn off the visibility to see what you're working with. And this layer right now has the yellow gold, so I'm going to click on there and press enter, and now I have the Vegas gold. Same thing here for the lightning veins. I'll double click. And I initially had these as two different types of gold. So let's say you do them both the same gold and you want one to stand out a little more from the other. I might want my lightning to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to go to my lightness instead of my saturation. So the lightness is going to tell me how the value of the color, whether it's closer to white, whether it's closer to a 50% gray or 100% black. So in this case, if I want it to be a little lighter than my Vegas gold I chose earlier, I can bring the slider closer to the white. And you can absolutely make these white as well. And I like them white. So I didn't intend on doing that, but I likes it. Alright, so we have our lightning things. Let's close that down. We got a paint drip color changed. We have another lightning veins, but these are already white. And then we also have, I keep the gray and the black layer the same, because no matter what my colors are, those just tend to be good accent colors. But you can absolutely change the color of the watercolor backsplash and the tiny splatter. And the tiny splatter I'll show you. You almost don't really see it, and you can disable any of these. If you don't like how the tiny splatter looks, then turn it off and see if you like that better, and you just have that option. Another thing is, let me go ahead and add I'm going to do a new fill layer. And I'm just going to fill it with white, because even when we're working with PNGs, a lot of times the transparency of the background won't give you a full effect of what things look like. So I like to put that white background on just so you know how it would print on white. Okay, so at this point, because my subject isn't exactly lined up where my last subject was, and I had a multi-photo image if you remember from the beginning of the video. So sometimes you just move this little paint layer around, move your photo around, and bam, you've got a complete image. But I did want to show you, for most purposes, you'll be able to do that. And that's what I've been seeing most people do, because I don't see a lot of you moving around the paint splashes. But I did want to let you know that it's possible. If you go into your paint effects layer, even though it looks like that's a big old group, you can break it down. So I can go into this layer, I can turn off and turn on, or if I just simply select the image, it'll put a box around which one. And let's say that one, it's a little off from the image and I want to bring it in. There you go. There you go. And then that way you have a lot of flexibility with these. Now if you have the paint brushes, if you bought the brushes, you would have those brushes in your arsenal. So you can go to your brushes, and within this layer I would just create a new layer every time I did a little brush stroke. That way if I didn't like how it looked, I can delete it out. Or you can just do a new layer, put all of the same lightning on there, and you wouldn't be able to change it out for the next subject, but you have that option too. So if you have the brushes, some of these, I basically made this template where you don't need the brushes for these particular paint splashes and lightnings, but you will absolutely have that option if you have Innate Lab brushes. And boy, I will have to figure out which one's which. But you see there's lightning, there are clouds, there's these swirls, there's a whole bunch of paint splashes you can use. Just a lot of some drips, a lot of different things that you can play with to modify your design. But like I said, for this template, you don't need all that. But I definitely encourage you to get it if you want to start advancing some of the looks of the images that you're working with. So let's go back to this design, see what else we need to change. We said we were going to change the blue to purple. So if we were going to do that, of course, we go back to our image. So this particular one, we're changing the colors of the class of, and it's still editable text. So we'll go to our color overlay, and of course right now it's blue, and we can move our sliders to get the color that we want, or if you had a hex code, you put it right in there. I'm just going to guess a purple first. I'm going to go with a nice deep purple, but bring it away from blue, because when you're sublimating, if you're doing sublimation, sometimes those purple and blues get really tricky. So I do my best to not have blurples. All right, and if I'm okay with this color, then I will copy that hex number, and now I'll change everything to purple. So same thing here with my blue paint splashes. I just go into my effects, change that out to my purple hex code, or manually select my purple, and there we have it. Now if I had a color in the image, then I could change that as well. So same thing here for our last name. We're going to go to our first name, last name. Let's go to our color overlay. Click once on the color, stop double clicking on the color, paste, and hit enter, and now I have that updated to purple. So that's the idea for the look of it. If you had your logo, literally I could pick those colors from the logo, so I can drop my logo in, pick the colors from the logo, and then I could also modify the colors in this graphic to look more like the colors in our image. So let's see how that goes. And that is not necessarily the easiest task in Affinity, but it is possible. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the end of the video where you need to know how to edit everything in here. And when I move this paint splash layer around, I'm way too close to this edge. So if I were going to move that paint splash layer around, I want to make sure that everything sits inside of the paper. That way I don't have anything abruptly cut off when I print and press it. Okay, so let's do, and I like to see also with my paint effect layers, I like to see that paint effect kind of come to the bottom a little bit. Yeah, I want to see that paint. Spent time making that paint splash. Let's see it. Okay, so This is a bonus part of this particular tutorial because we're going to play with, we brought this cap and this diploma in, and let's say we want to change some colors. So I would go about that with a layer, new adjustment layer, and selective color. And this thing is not as intuitive to me as Photoshop's version of this. Photoshop's version of this is called hue saturation. So here we are dealing with selective color. So first I'm going to guess that the colors I'm trying to change here in this tassel would be blues and cyans. So let me go to cyans. I'm going to turn cyan all the way down. And then I'm going to go to my blues and turn my blues all the way down. And of course, what's happening right now, let me close out of this for a second. I want to make sure that this is applying towards my graduation cap only. So I'm going to drag it onto my graduation cap and then indent it over to the right. And that means now that it is going to be a part of this selected object. And as you can see, it made the tassel now be purple, which is cool because that's almost what we need. However, it's not quite the purple that we need. So we'll go back, double click on that selective color, and let's go back to the blues. And we can increase the cyan and decrease it to see if that's what we were really seeing there. And as far as the black, I can bring the black up to increase that darkness. So it's increasing the darkness a little bit. So that is for the cyan and black we changed for the blues. Let's do the same thing for the cyans. Let's increase the black here and see if that gives us the purple that we need. We may also, depending on what's going on, we may also have to change. And this is what I don't like about this one, the neutrals. The neutrals are going to help too, but for some reason, because that blue had a lot of neutral in it. So if I'm increasing the black, ooh, I'm getting my purple finally. However, I'm not liking what it's doing to the rest of the image, right? And this is where layer masks come into play. So if I like what it did to the purple here, I could even change the golds, because the yellow, I can make the yellow have a little more white. And that will bring down the value of that. Alright, so I'm getting that to be a little less intense, and I could even bring down the magenta a little bit in that. It'll make it a little less red. I can even bring down the yellow itself. And I don't think there's any cyan in it, but if I wanted to be safe, I could bring that all the way down. Alright, now this would be okay with me, this particular one, but let's say that this black was just, it got a little too dark when you were trying to make the purple dark. You could go, this layer is technically a mask, so you can paint on it. Take your paintbrush, and if you wanted to, white is going to reveal, black's going to conceal. So if you want to reveal back the original image color here, you would just paint with your white. And the way I know white is selected is because if I go to color, oh, you painted with black, I'm sorry. And then if you want to, let's say you went over that and revealed that blue again, then you can reverse it, select your white, and go back to business. And in this particular case, I'm okay with it being dark, especially since his suit was really dark anyhow. But that might really throw things off. So I just wanted to show you how you have that option if you do your modification on one color. And then the other thing is you can literally select out the colors that you want and only apply the selective color adjustment to those layers. And that way your original image stays untouched there. And I would definitely, if I were doing this for a real project, I would definitely clean that up more. I would certainly reduce the size of this and work a little harder at making sure my image looks clean. It could even look like a little shadows down there, that's fine. But I definitely wouldn't just rough that up and leave it like it was. And let's say, oops, I went down into that color a little bit too much, that blue's exposed. It actually looks like a highlight, but if it didn't look like a highlight, reverse it, get that white, and build that color right back in. Reduce the size of the pixels if you need to get in there and clean it up a little bit more. Uh-oh, in that case I forgot I had black selected, so I brought my white back. And you can see you can be very forgiving with yourself, as long as you know what tools to use. And I'm also doing this with a mouse, which is a lot harder than with a stylus, so you get the idea there. There we have it. We just changed up our image, and we could do the same thing to the logo. Technically, if you had a mascot character here that was blue and yellow instead of purple and yellow, go in and change that. Same idea. As a matter of fact, because we had blue and yellow selected here, I'm going to guess that I might be able to take my selective color adjustment, and I'm holding down Alt key. I'm seeing if this works with the Alt key. I just wanted to see if it kept it. It didn't keep it. Let me undo that. Edit, undo that move. Let me keep it there, and let me see if I can just duplicate. I'm going to duplicate that selective color adjustment so that when I move it, I'm not affecting my original. So let's do that on top of the logo. And of course, it's in this area, so I need to take the same thing. I'm going to get my brush here. I'm just going to make a huge brush to show you that it has a layer mask on it. Layer mask has black and white, so I'm going to make it all white and just color that layer mask. And as you can see, it did make the blue purple, but it's definitely not the purple that we want. So we would have to double click and go back to our cyans and our blues and manage that. Let's see, the other thing is, looks like it's changing things other than it's changing our text. So let's make sure that this one is grouped in. Yep, and this one, our logo, let's make sure that selective color is grouped in so it's not affecting anything else. Okay, we're good. So let's play with this. So now I thought that it would bring this over, but that was also a different blue. It was more of a Carolina blue in the grad cap over there. So let's see how we can modify this. We'll take our neutrals, and let's reset those. As a matter of fact, we can reset everything. Let's just reset everything, and then that way when we bring down cyan, we can see what happens. And honestly, when I bring down cyan, I'm also changing that yellow color up a little bit, if you see that. Increase magenta. Oh, those are my neutrals. No wonder. Let me reset. I want to go to my cyans and see what happens when I reduce my cyan. I'm not going to increase anything else yet till I see if cyan and blue both play a part here. Sometimes it'll just be blue, sometimes it'll be just cyan. So I pull those down, and technically for purple you need a little bit of cyan, so we're going to end up bringing some of that back anyhow. But let's increase the magenta. We'll increase the black here, and we'll do the same thing for the cyan. So I'm bringing back some of the cyan so that I'm getting a true purple again. There we go. I'll do the same thing for the blues. Let me bring back a little more cyan, and that's that intense color there. And maybe I don't want as much of it. So this is certainly where the majority of that blue is coming through. So I'm bringing it down, no cyan. We are making it a little darker with the black, and I'll do the same thing. We have bring down the magenta a little bit here because I want it to be more of a pure purple. And I'm just gradually decreasing my cyan until I see that I have purple. Good deal there. And again, we may have to go to our neutrals and change the black and white here. And honestly, I don't think that's what we really need either. So I'm going to change this back to 0%. And let's see what else might be playing on these. We have our whites and blacks. Let's play with that and see what's going on. That didn't do anything. Let's choose our blacks and see what's going on there. And that didn't do anything. And if we play with reds, the yellow might have a little bit of red in it. The yellows, I don't want to change that. So what I could do here, if I'm happy with the actual color that's selected, but I want it a little bit darker, I don't want to keep playing with the non-colors because for some reason I don't like when it plays with the neutrals, the whites and blacks. So I'm going to keep that set as is, and then I can do a layer, new adjustment layer, and I can play with the, let's see if I want to do, let's do the shadows and highlights and see if I bring down the shadows and the highlights, it kind of adds a little bit of darkness to it. Makes it a little bit darker for me. And there are other ones you can do too. You can play with the brightness and contrast and bring down the darkness too. But I just wanted to make that a little bit darker purple without playing with some of the other functions. So you'll see that that's what that did there. Okay, so I'm just letting you know how you can play with colors of things. And like I said, in this case, I don't even think I'm happy with that. Let me delete that. Let's do layer, new adjustment layer, and let me play with these levels. White is up and move black around. That's making that more intense. And I don't want to play with my RGB. Here we go. So I'm bringing down the output white level. And you see how it's darkening that purple for me? There we go. I still have to play with in Affinity, modifying colors like I would in Photoshop, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. There's some similar titles and names for a lot of the functions, so I'm learning that as well so I can teach you all. But for the most part, the simplest part of this template is, of course, changing out your image, changing out the colors of the splashes and the text. That's easy. The part that's more difficult right now that I'm learning is adjusting the colors in the image, and I'm sure I'll have some more smaller tutorials on that in the future. But I just did want to give you a little extra. Of course, this is a 10-minute tease template, but I love to give y'all more information so that you understand not just how to manipulate the template, but how to actually use this program. So I use this as an excuse to teach you some extra stuff. So hopefully you stuck with me through this video and you see how you can change this template around for yourself, and you also learn some techniques when it comes to mimicking those multiple strokes. That's one thing, mimicking the multiple strokes that we do in Photoshop, and then also modifying colors and doing color replacement and modification. So that'll be it for today, guys, and I will be checking in with you soon. I'm sure I have a lot of tutorials to catch up on, so you'll be seeing a lot of me. Make sure you are subscribed to the youtube.com Innate Lab channel, and then also we have a Facebook group called Innate Creatives, where it's a private group where basically if you're having issues with your templates, you can post your issues and somebody will chime in and help you out. Also, just in general, if you have a Photoshop issue, you can usually post your post in there and we're able to help you out. So that is Innate, INNATE Creatives, CREATIVES. So you all come join us in Innate Creatives, and I'd love to see you soon. All right, guys, love you. Bye bye.